favorite pal, Kellyanne Conway, former counselor to President Trump, Fox News contributor, author of her own fabulous book, Here's the Deal. Kellyanne, I want to talk to you about some other things, but I know, you're like me. We're all amateur historians. We know the difference between right and wrong. We know why wealth solves poverty. We know why genius. We know why the Gilded Age is a terrific thing. I'm going to just give you a whack at it. Open field running, Kellyanne. I love the Gilded Age. And they're not robber barons. These are people that made America great and made our middle class great. Go ahead, my love.
Larry, I loved the history lesson. And look, people who are confused about the difference between capitalism and socialism, free markets versus free stuff, I think what you've treated us to today puts that to rest. But really, the entire Biden-Harris White House puts that to rest. If people were confused before, they know what the lack of free market capitalism can do. We've lost 25% of our retirement savings. Trillions of dollars in wealth have just evaporated. And speaking of trillions of dollars, Larry, unlike in the Gilded Age, you have this federal government right now has spent trillions and trillions of dollars to curry favor with the public, to get their votes, to get their voice back up there in the Democratic Party, and it's boomeranged in the other way. People are rejecting all this reckless, wasteful spending by the federal government because they also know it has another effect, which is the opposite of the Gilded Age, which it punishes success. It thwarts and suppresses innovation and entrepreneurship. And some of our greatest thinkers of today, like Elon Musk, for example, he wants to buy Twitter because he sees that social media like that has become a left-wing cesspool of people just cheering on the other, and it's not a free forum for ideas. The other thing I liked about the Gilded Age, which you did not cover, Larry, is I like people who dress up. And we've gone
absolutely.
If I see one more pair of pajamas at the airport, I'm just going to lose it. And, Larry, we've gone from people wearing, hats and suspenders and belts to not wearing pants that snap button or zipper anymore. Everybody walking around in the yoga pants. But look, seriously speaking, that was a time when, at least, as you said, people who were acquiring wealth and status in our nation gave it right back to the communities.
That's it.
And you ran through the great examples of their philanthropy. And if we let Americans hang on to more of the hard-earned money, I guarantee you they would be more generous with it. But right now, people feel less secure, less safe, less certain, less solvent, less sane than they did just a few years ago, Larry, when you were helping run the nation's economy.
Kiddo, way back when, during the Reagan years, our pal George Gilder wrote a fabulous book called Wealth and Poverty. It's still a classic. I mean, wealth takes down poverty. Wealth ameliorates poverty. Wealth and ingenuity and the freedoms that permit that makes people better, makes the middle class better, makes the lower classes better. We saw a smidgen of it during the Trump years because the tax cuts worked. We saw a bit of it with Reagan because of the tax cuts worked when poverty fell. I mean, really, I just want to rescue the Gilded Age from all the left-wing historians. And this terrific special coming up on Fox Business will do that. Kellyanne, here's the good news. The good news is all this new spate of polls, likely voter type polls, are now showing the cavalry is coming back. All of a sudden, the slump, if you will, in July and August, maybe even September, is spurting in October. And I know you follow this most carefully, but I wanted to ask you about two particular groups that are so surprising to me. Number one, women. Once again, the left was talking about the gender gap between Republicans and Democrats. This latest New York Times poll, Siena College New York Times poll, shows, guess what? Women tied with men at 47%. I think that might be backwards on the screen, but it doesn't matter. All of a sudden, they're tied. What happened to the gender gap, Kellyanne?
Well, what happened, the gender gap, is the Democratic Party, beginning with President Biden, tried to narrowcast to women. They only want to talk to us from the waist down, whereas the waist up is where our eyes, our ears, our brains, our mouths, and our hearts are. So you have a Republican Party actually responding to what women say are their top issues: inflation, border security, crime, education, national security, you name it, Larry. The Democrats really are throwing this all into the abortion basket. And even CNN admitted that, quote, I quote them, the issue is fading. Every single poll doesn't have it in the top 5 when the questions are asked properly. This doesn't mean people don't care about abortion, but they care. Women care about so many things. We are not single issue thinkers, single issue doers, and single issue voters. Go tell a woman that she can only do and think about one thing at a time. That's essentially what the Democrats are saying to America's women right now. They haven't even tried, Larry, to make the economy better. When Joe Biden is licking an ice cream cone, looking every minute of 80 years old and saying, quote, the U.S. economy is hot as hell, and then following it up with an equally egregious and false statement, which is he's worried about other countries. That's the opposite of America first. That's the opposite of free market capitalism and a modern gilded age. So that New York Times Siena poll, which was attacked today by Nancy Pelosi on a different network, she said, oh, it's an outlier. They didn't ask a lot in their sample. She knows that her days are numbered as speaker. If you look at that New York Times poll, what was fascinating to me is among people without a college degree, Republicans win by 15, right. 54-39. Right. Even among women, Republican, Democrat. If actually that holds, it'll be a huge red wave and it'll be a big blue wipeout. Look at the Real Clear Politics average, Larry. If that holds, the Republicans can pick up as many as 28 seats. And let's not forget, the Republicans won 15 seats in 2020. So when you had these big gains for Republicans in 1994, 53 seats, in 2010 with Obama there and Biden, 63 seats, we kind of banked those gains early in 2020 when 15 seats went from blue to red. Republicans didn't lose a single incumbent House seat, which is remarkable to do. But Larry, look, usually these presidents try. This White House neither tries. They lie all the time about the state of the economy. They're simply ignoring the will of the people. It's very clear in everybody's polls. Inflation, economy, number one, rising cost and rising crime. And that's how these women are thinking. And I'll sprinkle in education there, too. A lot of these women are still upset about the lockdowns, still upset about the lost learning, still upset about two parties in this country, and only one is for rescuing these kids from failing schools and giving them a better chance with school choice and charters.
Kellyanne, one last one on the way out. This is a President Trump question, okay? We both work with President Trump loyally. President Trump has made some major endorsements. I don't know, controversial endorsements, call it what you way. Arizona, Georgia, this is the Senate seats, of course. Arizona, Georgia, New Hampshire, Ohio, Pennsylvania. And I'm going to add my pal Leora Levy, who's closing in on Blumenthal in Connecticut, okay?
Connecticut.
So a question I have, I don't know, somebody raised this question, I can't remember exactly who. Might have been Jerry Baker in the Wall Street Journal. If Mr. Trump carries those Senate races, or let's say he carries all but one or something, doesn't that really put him in position to take his party's nomination in 24?
Sure, but I think that's, yes, if he wants to do that, absolutely. I think the day that Donald Trump announces he's running for president, the nomination is all but his. And part of it is because this America First agenda of free markets, tax cuts, dereg, energy independence, Putin not in Ukraine, 4 million people not coming over the border, Larry, lower crime rates, lower drug deaths, all of the above. ISIS on the run, all of the above. People know that wasn't coincidence, that was causation. You had a president and a vice president in there making these policies and these choices, and we all benefited. You saw the lowest unemployment rates. But look, in terms of Trump's legacy, he could have sat out 2022. He could have just sat out and just endorsed a couple of people that he was close to. He took a chance on people he hardly knew because they are carrying the America First agenda. That's really what's on the ballot. And Larry, just quickly, we've never seen this ever, that you have a sitting president completely unpopular and unwelcome on the campaign trail with the Democrats. Joe Biden just flew to California. He flew right over Arizona and Nevada. He wasn't invited there by the two Democratic incumbent senators to campaign with him. They've put Obama out there now. Donald Trump did 15 rallies in October of 2018. Barack Obama did 10 rallies in October of 2010. In Joe Biden's first October in his presidency, how many rallies has he done? 0? I mean, puffing around, shaking hands with the air doesn't count. So, yes, this is Donald Trump's issue set that everybody's running on. He made some very bold endorsements. And, Larry, and it doesn't get covered enough, we've had record turnout in the Republican primaries this time. People like me were very worried that Republicans would say, my vote doesn't count, the election's not fair, I'm just going to sit it out. Instead, they're going there, and they're saying all these issues, including the Gilded Age, are on the ballot.
They're giving us both the hook, Kellyanne, but I love it. I think you coined one, modern Gilded Age. I think you coined one. We'll work on that together. Kellyanne Conway, the great Kellyanne Conway.